Walk through American history and you'll trip over Christianity at every turn. It's there when Puritans land at Plymouth Rock, fleeing persecution and immediately creating their own. It's there when Jonathan Edwards terrifies congregations with visions of hell, and when George Whitefield draws crowds of thousands. It's there when abolitionists cite scripture to end slavery, and when slaveholders cite the same scripture to defend it. It's there when Martin Luther King Jr. quotes the prophets from a Birmingham jail cell. It's there in megachurches broadcasting to millions, and in storefront churches serving dozens. It's there in presidential speeches, Supreme Court battles, culture war debates, and Sunday morning pews both full and empty. No force has shaped American culture more deeply or more controversially than Christianity. It's influenced everything: law, education, politics, social movements, art, language, and national identity itself. But the story of American Christianity isn't simple. It's a 4-century saga of faith and hypocrisy, unity and schism, liberation and oppression, genuine devotion and cynical manipulation. So today we're asking, how did Christianity become the most influential force in American history? And what does that history reveal about both the faith and the nation? Christianity arrived in what would become America long before there was a United States. Spanish Catholics established missions across the Southwest in the 1500s. French Jesuits evangelized in what's now Canada and the Great Lakes. English Protestants, Puritans, Anglicans, Quakers, Baptists settled the Atlantic coast, each bringing their own version of Christianity. These weren't just spiritual movements, they were colonial projects. Christianity justified European presence on indigenous land. Missionaries followed conquistadors and colonists. The cross and the flag advanced together. From the beginning, American Christianity was diverse and contentious. Puritans in Massachusetts banned Quakers. Catholics in Maryland faced Protestant hostility. Baptists in Virginia were jailed for preaching without licenses. Jesus said, "For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them." Matthew 18-20. But those gathered Christians couldn't agree on almost anything except that they were right and the others were wrong. Was Christianity simply part of early America? No, it was foundational. Religion shaped laws, established schools, defined morality, created social order. You couldn't separate being American from being Christian because there was no secular option. But here's what's crucial. Even in this supposedly Christian America, unity was a myth. From day one, American Christianity was multiple competing Christianities. That pattern would define the next 4 centuries. In colonial America, religion wasn't optional, it was mandatory. Church attendance was often legally required. Taxes supported official churches. Political participation required religious affiliation. Blasphemy was a crime. This wasn't because everyone was devout. It was because religion was considered essential for social order. A society without shared religious authority, colonial leaders believed, would collapse into chaos. But the cracks were already showing. Roger Williams was banished from Massachusetts for challenging religious authority and founded Rhode Island on principles of religious freedom. Anne Hutchinson was exiled for claiming direct revelation from God. Catholics were persecuted in Protestant colonies. Quakers were whipped, imprisoned, and sometimes executed. Even within denominations, conflict raged. What counted as proper worship? Who had authority to lead? How should church and state interact? Were indigenous people capable of true conversion or inherently inferior? The myth of colonial America as a unified Christian society doesn't survive historical scrutiny. It was Christian, yes, but fractured, contentious, and often brutal in enforcing conformity. Some settlers genuinely came seeking religious freedom to practice their faith without persecution. But that freedom rarely extended to those whose faith differed from theirs. Did America's religious diversity begin from the start? Absolutely, and so did the fights about it. In the 1730s, something unprecedented happened. Christianity became a mass movement. The First Great Awakening exploded across the colonies. Preachers like George Whitefield drew crowds of 20,000, nearly 10% of the colonial population, to hear fiery sermons about sin, salvation, and spiritual rebirth. This wasn't your grandfather's staid, formal church service. This was emotional, dramatic, democratic religion. You didn't need education or social status to experience God. A dirt-poor farmer could be as saved as a wealthy merchant. Personal experience mattered more than institutional authority. Jesus said, "You must be born again," in John 3:7. And the awakening made that personal, emotional, accessible. not through sacraments controlled by clergy, but through conversion experiences available to anyone. The Second Great Awakening, starting around 1800, was even more transformative. Camp meetings drew tens of thousands. New denominations, Methodists, Baptists, Disciples of Christ, exploded across the expanding frontier. Circuit riders brought Christianity to remote settlements. These revivals didn't just grow churches, they reshaped American culture. They fueled missionary movements, created colleges, inspired social reforms like temperance and abolition. They made America the most actively religious nation in the Western world. But they also fragmented Christianity further. Each awakening spawned new denominations, new schisms, new claims to be the authentic expression of faith. And they created patterns: emotionalism over reflection, mass appeal over theological depth, celebrity preachers over institutional authority, that would define American religion for centuries. Did revival movements strengthen American faith? Yes. Did they also reshape religion into mass cultural movements focused on emotional experience over theological substance? Also, yes, and that tension has never been resolved. Want to understand American Christianity's complexity? Look at slavery. Southern Christians defended slavery using scripture. Paul told slaves to obey their masters. The patriarchs owned slaves. Ham was cursed to servitude. Slavery, they argued, was God's ordained social order. Northern Christians attacked slavery using scripture. The Exodus was about liberation. The prophets demanded justice for the oppressed. Jesus commanded love of neighbor. Enslaving people made in God's image, they argued, was intolerable sin. Same Bible. Opposite conclusions. Both sides absolutely convinced God was on their side. The Civil War became a theological crisis. Lincoln famously observed that both sides prayed to the same God and quoted the same Bible, and wondered how that was possible if God was just. After the war, Christianity fueled Reconstruction efforts and justified its violent reversal. It inspired both the social gospel movement addressing poverty and inequality, and the prosperity gospel blessing wealth and ignoring suffering. The prophet Amos thundered, "Let justice roll down like waters," as Amos 5:24. But American Christians never agreed on what justice required: abolition or gradual emancipation, integration or segregation, economic equality or free markets, women's rights or traditional roles. How could the same faith inspire both reform movements and violent resistance to change? Because Christianity is a set of texts and traditions that requires interpretation, and interpretation reflects the interpreter's context, biases, and interest. The Bible has been America's most influential book. It's also been weaponized to justify almost every position imaginable. That's not Christianity's fault, it's humanity's reality. The 20th century transformed American Christianity in ways colonial Puritans couldn't have imagined. Radio brought church into living rooms. Figures like Charles Fuller reached millions with broadcasts that made Christianity accessible anywhere, anytime. Billy Graham filled stadiums and used television to preach to more people in one crusade than previous evangelists reached in lifetimes. Megachurches emerged, not small community congregations, but massive operations with thousands of members, professional production values, and budgets rivaling corporations. Christianity became big business. This expansion had genuine benefits: unprecedented access to teaching, massive charitable organizations, global missionary movements. Billy Graham alone shared Christianity with an estimated 215 million people in person and millions more through media. But technology also changed the nature of American Christianity. It created celebrity pastors with massive platforms and minimal accountability. It turned worship into entertainment. It made theological depth optional as long as the production was slick and the message felt good. Churches began competing like businesses, using marketing strategies to attract customers. Success was measured by attendance numbers and budget size rather than spiritual formation or social impact. The question became unavoidable. Did technology expand religious outreach? Absolutely. Did it also transform faith into public spectacle, reduce complex theology to sound bites, and create financial incentives that sometimes corrupted spiritual mission? Also, yes. American Christianity achieved unprecedented scale and lost something essential in the process. What exactly was lost remains debated. If the 20th century was American Christianity's peak, the 21st century is its crisis. The numbers tell a stark story. Church membership has dropped from 70% in 1999 to barely 50% today. Among adults under 30, fewer than half identify as Christian. The knowns, those claiming no religious affiliation, are the fastest growing religious category. What happened? Multiple factors converged: institutional scandals, sex abuse cover-ups, financial corruption, hypocrisy of leaders living luxuriously while preaching sacrifice, political entanglement, Christianity becoming identified with specific partisan positions, alienating those who saw faith differently. Cultural change on sexuality, gender, race, and authority that many churches resisted, making them seem outdated or oppressive. Information access, exposure to other beliefs, historical criticism, and scientific explanations that challenged traditional claims. Younger generations increasingly questioned everything they'd inherited. Why believe what your parents believed just because they believed it? Why trust institutions with terrible track records? Why accept claims that couldn't be verified? Paul wrote, "Test everything, hold fast what is good." 2 Thessalonians 5:21. And young Americans took that seriously, testing Christianity and often finding it wanting. Not necessarily rejecting God, but rejecting the institutional, political, hypocritical version they'd experienced. Is American Christianity declining? Demographically, yes, especially in its traditional forms. Culturally, it's losing the dominance it once had. Institutionally, trust is at historic lows. But is it dying, or is it being forced to evolve, to distinguish between genuine faith and cultural Christianity, between authentic spirituality and social conformity? The next few decades will answer that question. Despite decline narratives, Christianity remains deeply influential in America. Millions attend church weekly. Christian charities operate nationwide. Faith-based hospitals and schools serve communities. Religious language still saturates political discourse. Christian moral frameworks still shape cultural debates, even among those who's left the church. But American Christianity in 2026 looks radically different than 1950 or 1900 or 1776. It's more diverse racially and ethnically. The white Protestant dominance is ending. It's more divided theologically. Progressive Christians and conservative evangelicals seem to practice different religions. It's more decentralized. Megachurches are shrinking while house churches and alternative communities grow. Some congregations embrace full LGBTQ inclusion. Others double down on traditional theology. Some focus on social justice. Others prioritize personal salvation. Some blend ancient liturgy with modern sensibilities. Others strip away all tradition. Paul wrote, "Faith, hope, and love remain." 1 Corinthians 13-13. But what American Christianity looks like while expressing those values, that's increasingly diverse. Some see this fragmentation as crisis, the death of Christian America. Others see it as renewal, stripping away cultural Christianity to find authentic faith. Some mourn the loss of shared religious culture. Others celebrate the end of religious monopoly. What will Christianity in America look like in the next generation? Nobody knows. But it will almost certainly be smaller demographically, but potentially more committed. More diverse in expression and theology, less culturally dominant, but possibly more prophetic. Forced to compete in a marketplace of meaning rather than inherit automatic cultural authority. Whether that's tragedy or opportunity depends on your perspective. How deeply has Christianity shaped American identity and culture? Profoundly and inescapably. The language Americans use, the values they profess, the debates they have, the institutions they've built, all bear Christianity's mark. Even secular Americans operate within frameworks Christianity created, often without realizing it. Can faith remain influential in an increasingly secular and diverse society? History suggests yes, but not the same kind of influence. Not cultural dominance, but one voice among many. Not automatic authority, but earned credibility through service and authenticity. And what lessons can history teach about religion, power, and national identity? Perhaps this. Christianity at its best has inspired genuine reform, created authentic community, and called America toward its highest ideals. At its worst, it's justified oppression, defended the indefensible, and corrupted its mission through the pursuit of power. The same faith tradition that inspired Martin Luther King Jr. also inspired the Ku Klux Klan. That produced both Dorothy Day's radical service to the poor and the prosperity gospel's sanctification of greed. That created both abolitionists and slaveholders, both reformers and reactionaries. American Christianity isn't one story. It's thousands of stories, often contradictory, sometimes inspiring, occasionally horrifying, always influential. The question facing American Christianity now is the same question it's always faced. Will it be faithful to its highest calling, serving the least of these, speaking truth to power, pursuing justice? Or will it settle for cultural comfort, political influence, and institutional preservation? History suggests it will continue doing both, frustratingly, persistently, faithfully, and unfaithfully all at once. The history of American Christianity is ultimately a story about people searching for meaning, moral direction, and connection to something transcendent. That search has created hospitals and justified slavery. It's inspired civil rights movements and resisted social change. It's built communities and torn them apart. It's given people purpose and control. It's offered liberation and demanded conformity. Christianity's influence on American culture, institutions, conflicts, and ideals is undeniable. Woven so deeply into the nation's fabric that separating one from the other is nearly impossible. Whether that influence has been primarily positive or negative, whether it should continue, what form it should take, those questions remain contested. Americans are still fighting the battles their ancestors fought about Christianity's role in public life. What's certain is this: the story isn't over. American Christianity is being written every day in churches and communities across the nation. What it becomes next depends on choices being made now by millions of believers and seekers. The history continues, the questions persist, and the influence, for better and worse, endures. This is the Scholar's Ledger, where we explore the forces that made America in all their complexity and contradiction. Subscribe, share, and join us in the search for truth.